Hi, it's Moser with a quick tutorial on generalists, specialists, and their niches. Oh my. After this video, you should be able to identify a species as being either a generalist or specialist based on characteristics of its niche. You should already know what niche is. So you may remember that we said a niche was everything about an organism's lifestyle. This includes how it gets and transfers energy, so what it eats, who eats its poop, all of that, if anything parasitizes it, if it parasitizes anything, that's all part of the niche. When it's active, day, night, dawn and dusk, nocturnal, diurnal, crepuscular. It's how often it reproduces. Does it provide parental care? Does it have thousands of babies and never lay eyes on them? Or have one baby at a time and spend a whole year nurturing it? That's all part of its niche. Now, we've talked already about carp and hellbenders. And we said that carp seem to be able to survive in just about any kind of water, while hellbenders need cold, high oxygen streams to survive. Well, there's a broader theme here. There are species that have very wide niches. We call them generalist species, and they're able to survive a wide range of abiotic factors. Now, it's not just the abiotic factors. These generalists typically have a much wider range of biotic relationships. In other words, relationships to the other living things in their ecosystem. This may mean that they eat a wide variety of foods and that a wide variety of things eat them, but they typically have lots of points of connection in that ecosystem. So, who's a generalist? Oh, look at my cute little friend here. Well, what kind of temperature range can raccoons tolerate? Heat of summer? Not a problem. Cold of bitterest winter? Not a problem. Now, we don't see a whole lot of raccoon species in places like the desert, but pretty much every relatively temperate environment on the planet hosts raccoons. What do they eat? What you got? Crayfish? Insects? Grubs? Trash? Marshmallows? Sure, I'll eat that. Fallen apples? Acorns? Yep, I can eat that too. They'll eat just about anything. Now, what eats them? A couple of things larger than them. Not a whole lot in the current ecosystem that we've got going in the eastern United States, but they're really good generalists. Let's talk about an insect example of a generalist. Ew, not so cute. It's a cockroach. Hey, you know what they'll eat? Anything. Do you know what kind of temperatures they can tolerate? Any of them. There are people who say that they would survive a nuclear bomb blast. I don't know if I believe that. But these things are pretty tough. They live everywhere. There are species of cockroaches that live where there are no humans, but there are a whole lot of species of cockroach that have followed humans around everywhere we've gone on the globe, and they live everywhere. Deserts, temperate zones, near the Arctic, tropics, doesn't much matter. They are the ultimate survivors and the ultimate generalists. They can survive anything. Now let's talk about one plant example of a generalist species. Can you think of one? It would have to be something that's found growing just about everywhere, that survives harsh conditions and little care and springs up again and again. Did these come to mind? Dandelions! Where do they grow? Crack in the sidewalk, nice juicy lawn, edge of the forest? Sure. They're pretty darned adaptable. They exist on multiple continents. They exist from far north to far south. Now, there are some exceptions. We don't find them in the Arctic. We don't find many of them in desert environments, but they do occasionally survive there too. They're pretty darn tough to kill. They've got a whole arsenal of adaptations that allows them to survive in a very wide range of conditions. What eats them? Plenty of things. How do they get their energy? Well, sunlight, of course, and while they can't grow in absolute darkness, any place that there's even a tiny glimmer of sun, you'll see dandelions popping up their cheery little heads. Now, let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. There are species that have a very narrow niche. They're called specialists. And specialists typically have a pretty narrow range of abiotic factors they can tolerate, and they also tend to have sort of a narrower set of biotic relationships. So, to keep things nice and even, let's start off with a mammal example of a specialist. Narrow range of abiotic factors, smaller set of biotic relationships. Oh, it's adorable! It's a panda. And you know what they eat? Bamboo. You know what else they eat? Bamboo. When they're really hungry, they eat bamboo. You getting the picture here? They don't eat anything but bamboo. They don't necessarily tolerate a wide range of temperature fluctuations, though, I mean, they've got some of the standard mammal adaptations, fat and the ability to lower their metabolic rate. But really the big thing it comes down to for them is they're very limited in their food. They can't eat anything else. They can't digest it. They're a specialist, all right. Now, for the insect example of a specialist, you have to look pretty closely here. These are rocks that are forming a case that is protecting a little larval insect called a caddisfly. It'll live in the water as a juvenile, and then it'll hatch into a flying insect where it will mate and lay its eggs in the water, and the whole cycle repeats. Now, caddisflies are pretty special. They only live in streams as juveniles, and beyond that, they require high-quality, cold, well-oxygenated streams with perfect habitat. No muddy bottoms for them, no algae blooms and poop in the water. They have a very narrow set of requirements that they need to survive. They're a specialist. And to round out our little trio of specialists here, I have this beautiful plant. This is a lady slipper orchid. If you're ever lucky enough to see one in the wild, well, you should really thank your lucky stars. They only grow in forests with pines. They only grow on certain sides of valleys. They're very delicate. They reproduce slowly. It takes a long time to get any of them established. And they're really finicky about soil nutrient requirements and all sorts of things. You're not going to find these popping up between the cracks in the sidewalk. They have a narrow range of abiotic factors they can tolerate, and they have a pretty small set of biotic relationships. They're a specialist. So now, let's go back to the two species we started off with. Can you pick out the generalist and the specialist? Hellbender and brown carp. Which one is the generalist? Which species is capable of living anywhere, tolerating hot water, cold water, low oxygen, high oxygen, mating like crazy, and generally making a nuisance of themselves? That'd be your carp. They can live anywhere. They're total generalists. They'll eat anything. They'll eat bread balls. They'll eat worms. They'll eat stuff off the bottom of the lake. They don't much care. Which leaves us, correctly, with the hellbender as our specialist. They're really sensitive to changes in oxygen. They're really sensitive to changes in habitat. They do eat a wide range of things, but they're so delicate in terms of the abiotic requirements that they need. They're a specialist. Okay, would you be able to take any species, look at its niche, and identify it as a generalist or specialist? Awesome. You're done. Have a good one.